We have had a terrible journey. Of course, my husband is the one who has suffered the most, but as a family, we have had a very painful 2 years since my husband had Sanofi Pasteur's yellow fever vaccine. It has been incredibly hard. We had to leave Greece. We had to leave Athens, all our friends. We miss Athens every day. We had to take our son out of his school in Athens. He had to leave all his friends behind. It has been absolutely devastating for my husband and for us as a family.
Of course, understandably. Now, you wrote on your blog, Sanofi Pasteur's admission that its yellow fever vaccine can make people go mad has left me shocked and disgusted. For 2 years, Sanofi Pasteur not only denied there was any link between my husband's mental illness and the vaccine, they deliberately lied. Now, following this admission, what is your mission from this point on?
My mission is that Sanofi Pasteur acknowledges that their vaccine made my husband a very, very ill man, that it threw him into a mental abyss that he's just slowly crawling out from. I want Sanofi Pasteur to compensate my husband for the loss of his career, the loss of his job. As you know, he was the BBC's correspondent in Athens. Mm-hmm. For everything we lost as a family, I think it's only fair, and I think it's the right thing that Sanofi compensates a victim of one of their products.
Do you think this is likely following their admission?
I have no idea. I hope that Sanofi Pasteur will do the right thing. I hope that they will have some kind of corporate responsibility, that they will show that they are a responsible company, a responsible organization, that they acknowledge that once in a while their products do harm people, and they take responsibility for that they are liable for the fact that my husband has spent more than 8 months in locked up psychiatric hospitals. So I sincerely hope that they will do the right thing and compensate my husband.
What has this process been like for you, trying to hold everything together? And as one reviewer recently wrote for Malcolm's book, that you're the one who kept everything together in the most trying circumstances imaginable, that you're a kind of hero of some sorts. How do you feel about that?
No, listen, there's only one hero here, and that is my husband. I know mental illness. I have unfortunately witnessed it before with other family members. But I have never seen suffering the way my husband has suffered. And the fact that he has managed to come back from that hell, is a true inspiration, and it makes me actually very humble to be able to witness, his determination every day. I am no hero. I'm a mother. I'm a wife. This is what we do as mothers and wives. We keep our families together. And that is what I have been trying to do all the way along.
What is the situation for you right now as an everyday situation? How are things today?
Well, things are calmer now. The best news that I can report is that my husband is slowly getting stronger. We are slowly getting back to some kind of normality. One of the big issues right now is, how our son is dealing with everything he has been through. And I'm not going to talk about my son's private affairs here, but I will say this, which is that our son is struggling now as a result of having been uprooted from Athens, from Greece, where he had everything he loved in life, to Denmark. Even though he knows Denmark because I am Danish, it was a complete change for him to have seen his father go mad. Our son has witnessed my husband's mental collapse. Mm-hmm. And, it has been a devastating experience for him. And I must say, I think there is still a price to pay for our son. And in the coming years, we will have to see how this has affected him. But as a family, we are slowly clawing our way back to normality. It's a one step-by-step time. It's a day-by-day thing we do. We do not make any plans. We do not even have hope anymore. And that's perhaps the worst thing of all, is this whole situation, this whole nightmare has deprived of us hope. We dare not hope for anything anymore. We just, every day that passes where nothing bad has happened is a good day for us.
If you look beyond the sort of, it's very difficult, of course, to achieve always, but look beyond the personal aspect of your situation and distance yourself. What do you think the situation tells the world as a greater example? Because I know you've also done huge amounts of research and connected with people who have also experienced very similar symptoms to what your husband went through.
Yeah, I have, after what happened to my husband, I have, because I am a journalist, dug into the world of vaccines, especially Sanofi Pasteur's vaccines. Sanofi Pasteur is the world's largest vaccine manufacturer. At the moment, they produce about 25 out of about 30 most used vaccines that are available on the European market, and that includes Greece. So I have looked into their vaccines and the safety of their vaccines, and I am shocked by what I have found. There have been inspections and their plants, inspections that have revealed, many breaches of safety regulations. I think that there is a huge question mark hanging over the safety of all of Sanofi Pasteur's vaccines. And this can never be over for us in the sense that my husband's mental health is not a given anymore. We do not know what the future holds for him. No doctors can tell us what his prognosis is. We have no idea of knowing if my husband will relapse again. We have no idea of knowing whether or not he will always be on medication. And the medication he is on is now starting to give him some other side effects. So it's a never-ending cycle, and it will never be over for us as a family, because there will always be the issue of my husband's health now. That has been taken away from us by that Sanofi Pasteur vaccine. Good health is no longer a given in our family. So for us, as a family, it will never be over.
Yes. Well, thank you so much for speaking with us today.
Thank you very much, Alexia.
Is Malcolm available for a chat?
Yes, he is.
Hey Alexia, how are you?
The last time I spoke with you and saw you actually was a few years ago when you were still in Athens working as a correspondent for the BBC. And to be honest, I can't believe the huge and traumatic experiences that you have been through since then, which you also relate in your book, Malcolm is a Little Unwell. In a nutshell, if that's possible, how would you describe that experience?
Well, the experience, it's taken me 85,000 words to describe it in my book, and it's difficult to describe it in a nutshell, but it has been the most catastrophic event of my life. It's possibly ruined it completely. And as you heard my wife say, it's damaged us as a family quite considerably. I've been on a journey that has been to hell and back, and I wouldn't wish it on anybody. It's like something from a Kafka novel, in that I believed I was all sorts of people during this time. And I'm absolutely convinced that this was as a result of getting that routine injection in Palini in April 2011.
What would you say you feel like today? I mean, because your wife just a moment ago said that this is not over and it probably never will be. How do you feel about that in terms of knowing that things can change from day to day?
Well, I'm doing my absolute utmost to try to get better, and although I might sound perfectly normal to you at the moment, it is because I am on quite a lot of medication. I've been out of hospital now for 10 months without any relapses. Beforehand, I had about 4 or 5 relapses when I went back to being insane, and they seem to get worse every time. So what I'm desperately trying to do is to keep as normal as possible and to gradually reduce the medication that I'm on. But as my wife said, there's no guarantee that it'll work. But although the doctors say it's possible that I will get back to normal, and we are hoping that the medication will go down so that the natural chemical balance in my brain will be restored.
Now, how do you feel about this admission, very recent admission by Sanofi Pasteur, that actually their yellow fever vaccine can make people go mad after 2 years of them denying it?
What has happened there is that in the past, Sanofi Pasteur has been issuing statements out of its office in just west of London. And as the book was published last week, and there were some extracts in the Daily Telegraph, they were forced to make some more statements. And the Maidenhead office in England passed it over to the headquarters in Lyon in France. And this admission was made by their spokeswoman there. So it's quite clear that having passed it up the food chain, they're feeling under a bit of pressure. And if indeed they do, acknowledge that the drug can cause some, mental deficiencies, albeit, in small numbers, that is really quite an acknowledgement on their part. And we hope that this will speed up any settlement or compensation or justice, whatever you want to call it, between us and them.
I imagine you must have received some enormous support over the years for what you've been going through.
Well, we've been trying to promote our cause through social media such as Twitter and Facebook. And both Trine and I have got an enormous number of friends. And there's been nothing but solidarity from them, and it's been extremely uplifting, especially through the darkest periods of this whole experience. And what's most sort of satisfying is that elsewhere in the wider world, there is quite a lot of stigmatism attached to being mentally ill and to mental illness as a whole. But most all of my friends really have not applied that, and they've been hoping that this is just a temporary condition, and I'm hoping to prove that.
Now, before you were in Greece as a correspondent, you worked in very, very dramatic situations journalistically, facing war zones and such. But with this personal experience, how would you say the way that you see the world has actually changed?
My wartime experiences in Bosnia and also in Grozny were the events that really sort of shaped my life, and they were at the peak of my journalistic experience. Since those days, I've sort of calmed down a bit and haven't gone to as many conflict zones. And as people know, I've spent 8 years in the noughties reporting on Greece. And very satisfying that was as well. But I had some pretty scary experiences in Sarajevo and also in Grozny, the Chechen capital. But nothing really compares to the mental anguish that I've suffered over the past 2 years. For example, I imagined when I was in Athens that I was the Messiah. But the worst period of all was when I was in Denmark, when we moved to Copenhagen. And I started to believe that I was the devil. And later I believed that I was an Al-Qaeda suicide bomber. And the trauma of dealing with that was just enormous. But all of that is within my book, and I hope that some of your listeners will buy it.
Now, your wife did a lot of research on other people who might have had similar consequences to this yellow fever jab or other kind of jabs. I guess this must have helped you also feel that you were not alone in what you were going through, because in any situation where it's something new to people, they can feel completely alone in the world. How did that help you, actually?
I haven't managed to find anybody who's had exactly the same conditions. My wife has managed to find some people who've had similar conditions, but to be honest, I haven't really been concentrating on them. I've been concentrating on my own well-being, which might sound rather selfish, but she has been in charge of the technical side of things and also the campaigning side of things, and she's been doing it extremely well. And much of the stuff that she's doing has been way above my head in terms of the scientific aspect of things. So to answer your question, it really didn't sort of enter my radar, really.
Now, finally, just to go back to your book, Malcolm is a Little Unwell. As you said, it was released last week. What was the process of writing the book like for you?
Well, it was quite cathartic in a way because I wanted to, it was just, if you read it, you'll see that it's really quite an extraordinary story and an extraordinary journey. I also did it as a commercial venture as well because heaven knows we need the money. But more than anything else, what I wanted to do was to demonstrate to people that I've still got great mental faculties, that I'm still able to think journalistically and to be able to report on what happened to me. And so it's been an effort of intellectual strength in a way, And so far, the response I've had from people who've read the book is very warm and it's very encouraging. Nobody's had a bad word to say about it. So it's quite uplifting to see that what I've aimed for is starting to come to fruition.